All right, good morning, everyone. And I would ordinarily say that, but it is a good morning indeed for the Buffalo Sabres and their fans. Adam Benini and Sal Majorana, Sal of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, Adam Benini, WGRZ-TV and Sports Talk Live Buffalo. This is Believe in Sabres presented by FanDuel, and this is now a series again, Sal. Yes. This is tied at 2-2 after an amazing, drama-packed 3-2 win for Buffalo. On seemingly invincible ground up there at Bell Center. But boy, what a difference a game makes, right?
The last two times you came out and said good morning, Adam, it was not a good morning if you're a Sabres fan. It was a bad morning. They got their asses kicked in 2 games in a row. But so last night was such a huge response for the Sabres. We talked about this. They lose that game, and it's going to be really tough to beat Montreal 3 times. Even with, 2 of those games being back in Buffalo. So it was a pivotal win for the Sabres. And I'll tell you, Adam, that was about as gritty a game that the Sabres could have won. Both of these teams are young playoff teams, but for Buffalo to come back, overcome the adversity that they faced in that ridiculous first period, which we're going to get into here, I'm sure, to win that game the way they did and then lock it down. I mean, they scored, 5 minutes into the third period. They had to get through the last 15 minutes. And to win that game and get it back to Buffalo at even is really a huge accomplishment for the Sabres.
So I want to go back to something we had talked about after games 2 and 3. And that was how Montreal responded, right? How they were able to open things up. They were much quicker in terms of skating style, passing, creating time and space. They did it in game 2 and obviously in game 3 in a very significant way. And we kept talking about the Sabres' need to respond. We had Ryan Miller on yesterday. And he talked about how the Sabres need to be kind of more deliberate in their own end, more responsible, get to the transition game that had been so effective for them, right? And a lot of what he had to say, a lot of what Lindy Ruff had to say, and the players themselves turned out to be spot on because you could see it right away. They came out and absolutely dominated. And I just feel like as we open this, it's worth commenting on how Buffalo was able to get to its game quickly right from the start. And the Samuelson goal is exactly the kind of goal or a big part of what's made them so tough to beat since that December turnaround and what they did during the regular season and the defensemen getting involved in the rush. A perfect example. That's their game. That's how they dictate. That's what has made them so tough to defend. And bang, right away you see it. Great feed, Samuelson joining the rush, and it's 1-0 Buffalo.
Yeah, and Ruff said that after the game. He said, we got back to our game tonight, and they did. I mean, they started great. That first minute in game 3 was great. They had the first goal of the game, and then it just went to hell, and Montreal steamrolled them. This time, Sabres got off to a good start. I think they were out shooting them 8-1 when they scored the goal.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that was the number. So they played really good the first 6 minutes and then scored the goal with, I think it was 6:32 into the first period. So right away, they had Montreal on their heels, and that continued for the next couple minutes, and they get the second goal, which ended up not being a goal. But, I mean, at that point, it looks like it's a 2-0 game, and Montreal is wondering what team is this? Because this was not the same Sabres team, certainly the last 2 games, and even for a chunk of game 1. But then we can talk about the NHL being the NHL. I sat there for those 10 minutes just thinking, like, what the hell are they looking at? And then when it finally came down, the final decision, I wanted to throw my remote to the TV. I couldn't believe that it came to that.
We've all seen a lot from the National Hockey League in this way through the years. I mean, I go back to the no-goal controversy and all that BS and back in 99 and being in the building for that and trying to report on that and sift through the continuation memo and did Hull have possession, all this crazy stuff. I don't mean to bring that up here. I'll never forget,
Adam, we're going down in the elevator that night, right? Not even knowing what had happened. We get to the post-game presser and we're like, what the hell's happening? That was the craziest night ever. But,
no, it was. Because now I'm digressing here, but I'm standing and you probably we're down there. Like, I'm standing. They were holding us back, right because they hadn't reconfigured everything in terms of the locker rooms at that point.
Right.
And they're holding us back right where the Stars would enter before you got down to the home, in the hallway adjoining the two locker rooms. And where I was with Scott Oak from Hockey Night in Canada, and all the monitors were there and everything. And Lindy comes down on the opposite end, comes into the hallway and looks up and sees us amassed. And he screams up the hallway. His foot was in the insert profanity that begins with an F crease, right? With like just seething and spit coming out of his mouth.
I'll never forget, and then all of a sudden, that.
Do you remember that? And then we all looked at each other. I remember Mike DeGeorge standing next to me and Scott Oak, and we all looked at each other and we're like, what? And then they start rolling it back in the monitors, the CBC monitors, and you could see, and all of a sudden you realize that we're entering into one of the great controversies in the history of the NHL and in sports in general. Unbelievable. Okay, so now to get back to the point, I wouldn't put this in that category, obviously, but
no.
But it was so pivotal to the game, and it could have essentially done a lot to decide the series. Potentially. Fortunately, the Sabres were over to come it, and they got a bounce of their own. But I want to get into this controversy just a little bit. I don't talk about not understanding anything. The puck is clearly over the line in his glove because the camera itself is back in the net. It's not on the crossbar. It's like, so even with the angle, you could see, if it was on the crossbar, you could clearly see that it was, and they did determine. And
they got that part of it right.
They got that right. Okay.
They got it right. It was a goal.
And then you look at it and I'm like, okay, well, Quinn's stick hit the glove. And the assumption is that that's what that's not even what they were talking about. They're talking about Helenius.
Well, wait a minute. I think they were on the initial review. I think they were checking to see if Quinn pushed his glove across and then was the puck across the net in the goal. I think that was the original review, which is probably what took so long, because they're trying to figure out, did Quinn actually push the glove in? Because it was pretty clear the puck was over the line. I would think that those numbnuts back in Toronto could realize that was pretty clear. I think they were just trying to determine if Quinn pushed the glove in. Then after they made the right call, you could get to the next thing.
Well, which is the challenge, right? And I'm going to read it from the NHL description right here. Okay, I have it. Montreal then, so after the whole Quinn situation, you're right. Montreal then initiated a coach's challenge for goaltender interference. Video review determined Buffalo's Konsta Helenius interfered with Jakub Dobiš, impairing his ability to play his position in the crease prior to Jack Quinn's goal.
Ridiculous.
Absolutely
ridiculous.
For all
the stuff that's already gone on in this series with goaltenders, you're gonna call that? I mean, he barely even grazed him. And since when? Somebody else tweeted this out, and they were absolutely right. Since when does a goalie not have to at least fight a little bit for his own space? Like every other guy on the ice has to kill himself for every inch of ice. Since when does the goalie completely have a bubble around him like that? There's obvious reasons why you protect a goalie, but in that instance, that had nothing. Helenius did nothing to impede how Dobiš played the puck in that play.
If anything, and Lindy Ruff pointed this out, that Dobiš swings his stick, uses his stick.
Yeah, he does.
And Ruff pointed to that in that particular sequence. I mean, I've just seen so much worse, much more severe contact not be called goaltender interference. And then you come up with that BS.
Yeah, it's brutal.
I thought it was just an embarrassment for the National Hockey. I remember, was it Mario Lemieux called it a garage league? Yeah. Well, guess what?
That's what I called it last night, remembering somebody had said that a long time ago.
It's done a lot to maintain its status, is that they've made a ton of progress, but then you see something as idiotic as that. What is Dobiš Tom Brady now? I mean, it made me think of how the NFL protects quarterbacks.
The thing that drives me nuts about the NHL, Adam, is what sports league wants to take scoring away, right? With these stupid offside challenges that are over by an inch, and now we're wiping out goals. And I don't know what happened here. I just went off air. Can you still hear me, Adam?
Yeah, I can. Go ahead.
Well, my camera's off, but I can keep talking. They wipe out goals because of the silly offside challenges, and now he breeds near the goalie on that particular play, and they take the goal away. Why does the NHL, a league that doesn't have a ton of scoring to begin with, why do they do that? It's just crazy to me. All right. So we're
all right,
back.
Sal. All right. I don't know. I paused the recording because you had dropped off. I don't know how much of the rant we got most of the rant there.
Yeah. Well, I ranted
this
about the NHL wanting to take goals away. It's just kind of crazy to me.
Yeah,
but,
it's ridiculous. You could go back and recite so many mind-numbingly stupid decisions, and from the top down in the National Hockey League, the playoff format. We can get into all of it. It's just
and what sucked about it in this case, outside of the fact that they took a goal away, is that the Sabres had so much momentum those first 10 minutes, and that 10-minute delay seemed to suck the life out of them for a little while. And Montreal predictably took advantage, and they owned the rest of the period, got 2 goals, and it felt like in that moment, as the first intermission gets going, to me, it felt like that was going to be the turning point of the game. Yeah. And the Sabres are going to be screwed. How are they going to bounce back from that? Because they did not do a great job handling it in the moment for the rest of the first period. But, things changed, which was good.
No, they overcame it, and they got a break of their own, which
they sure did. Let's talk about that.
With Thompson, off of the stanchion there in the corner. I tweeted at the time, that's karma. That's karma coming back. And I think a lot of the players, I saw quotes and references to the hockey gods and those types of things.
Samuelson said it was the hockey gods giving us one back, which was true.
I mean, that was, I don't know what there is to talk about there, but I mean, that's what I guess surprises me is that listening to the game broadcast, they know about that. Like the Habs it wasn't a freak thing. Yeah. That's like a characteristic in the corner there.
I think it was Emily Kaplan on ESPN came back must have talked to somebody and they said, yeah, it's kind of a thing. What was so funny about that too, Adam, is that was on the 4-minute power play. And the first minute of that power play, as you know, Sabres, as usual, could not get the puck in. They were trying to carry in on their entries. Montreal was stopping them. The first 2 times they tried it, it went right back in the other end. And then on that one, Thompson decided, let's shoot it in and go get it. And he got more than he bargained for because he shot it in and then it carried him crazy and went off into the goal. So I like that they changed it up and we're trying to go play dump and chase. But man, what a reward for that dump and chase. That was like you said, that was the hockey gods giving the Sabres one back.
Okay, so you figure at that point that I felt like, okay, that levels things out.
Yeah, it kind of did.
All of the whatever that was in the first period, right? That takes it away, kind of, resets everything. So then as you look, I mean, special teams, they're always big, but they played such a huge role in this game.
Ooh,
St. Louis, afterward in his post-game press conference, pointed right to it. Instead of, I think he was asked about that fluke goal, and he kind of just shrugged his shoulders and pointed to Luukkonen's play, which we'll get to. But he also said special teams were huge. Montreal winds up.
It was one of the things I had in my observation. Special teams were the deciding factor in this game because of the penalty kill being so good and the power play scoring twice.
So let's talk about the penalty kill first. Montreal 1 for 7 on the power play, right? And this gets to a point where, I mean, I really felt like the Sabres' discipline was extraordinarily poor. The penalties they were taking, I'm like, they're gonna beat themselves in this game and go down 3-1 in the series. Yep. Because I mean, you look at the guys, Dahlin with a couple of those interference, right? Thompson with a stupid cross check, absolutely no reason for that whatsoever. Yep. Byram with his Stanley Cup experience, where he gets the 2 high stick, including the 4-minute one, right? Like it just. I mean, they have to be. They cannot afford. Listen, credit to the penalty killing in Game 4. They cannot afford to keep doing this. They can't do it as the series progresses. They can't.
Zucker had the ridiculous one. He drills the guy into the guy's already down, drills his head into the boards. I mean, you just can't be doing dumb things. They were flirting with disaster with the penalties they were taking, the lack of discipline, and their penalty kill bailed them out. UPL was tremendous in this game, and he stood tall in those moments because Montreal's power play, as we know, they get the puck in the zone, it usually doesn't come out. There's just constant pressure, and I thought he was terrific. And the key, Adam, and Ruff pointed this out, were the block shots. Yep. The Sabres, they were selling out for everything last night. Did you see the total? They had 27 block shots in this game. Montreal had 6. So that just showed you the level of desperation the Sabres played with in this game, which you have to in that situation. there could have been 2 or 3 power play goals, if not for some great blocks by the penalty killers. Just a great job for Montreal to go 1 for 7. And on that 4-minute, they hardly even came close. I don't think they might have had one good chance on that whole 4-minute, because it bridged the 2 periods, so it was broken up. But if they had one good chance on that 4-minute, that might have been it. So just an awesome job for the penalty killers.
All right, so that's a plus, obviously, in terms of the penalty kill, the discipline, which Ruff quickly pointed to in the post-game press conferences. That's something clearly, that's the downside. The upside is the kill, and the upside, and let's just kind of, I think there's a point here that blends into a lot. It falls under the umbrella of coaching. I think you got to give Ruff a lot of credit in terms of the decisions he's made in this postseason, the decision to go to Lyon originally against Boston, and then to come back to UPL, which clearly paid dividends right from the opening faceoff last night. Yeah. That was to...
Yeah, were you surprised? I was a little surprised, because he had said after Game 3, it certainly wasn't Lyon's fault. He played well. And he gave up 5 goals, but, we all saw the game. He played pretty well, and it was just Buffalo's horrendous defensive coverage that cost them that game. So I was a little surprised that he made the move to UPL, but like you said, he's a veteran coach. He felt that this was something that might spark the team, just like when he went to Lyon back in the Boston series, and it paid off great. UPL, man, I did not expect him to. I was worried. I'm thinking, like, Lyon's been the better road goaltender this year, and to send UPL into a game that was kind of do or die. I mean, we both felt they had to win the game if they had any chance. And you send them into that place in that atmosphere, I was a little bit concerned. But, man, he proved me wrong. He was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. And, well, I had asked Ryan Miller, it was speculation at the time because we recorded yesterday morning, and we didn't have any indication. Eventually later in the day, you learn that, UPL has his own net at morning skate. It was obvious that Ruff was going to make the switch. But Miller, for what it's worth, pointed right to that. He goes, it'd be interesting to see if Ruff makes the change, because he felt like it would really spark the team. And so Miller's instincts, Ruff's instincts, obviously, and we saw it. We saw the start that they had, and then the finish where UPL winds up with 28 saves on the night. I think it was 22 of them over the final 2 periods, right?
Yeah,
closing
22
the door.
That's true.
I mean, you can't ask for a better performance than that. And so, again, that's Ruff's instincts. And again, it's been a rotation for them, a successful one all season long. So it's not like you're turning to a backup, right?
Yeah,
or
you're right.
In Lyon's case, it's not like you're turning to a backup as he's like a 1A versus a Luukkonen, right? You've got essentially 2 starters. So it makes that decision a little bit easier given the caliber of goaltenders we're talking about here. Okay.
Yeah. I think it just gave Montreal a little bit of a different look too. Right. I mean, they'd seen Lyon for 3 games. I think Lyon played Montreal twice during the regular season, and they lost both games there. So I think he was just maybe giving them a different look. UPL is a little bit of a different goaltender than Lyon, and, man, worked out great. Great call by him.
And then the other thing with Ruff that I wanted to point out is the changes he made to the power play. You could see it last game, and you could obviously, they wind up 2 for 4, right? Now you have the fluke goal, but there was nothing fluky about Benson right in front of the net and how they set him up.
Great
there.
play. That was
phenomenal.
And you know what set that whole thing up, Adam, was they won that battle in the corner. You remember that battle in the corner took like 20 seconds to dislodge the puck. And how many times have the Sabres lost that battle and the puck goes out? This time they won it, and then Thompson kind of settled things down on the wing over there, and he started the play that led to, he gets it to Doan, and then Doan right into Benson. And how about Benson? He's got 3 Canadiens surrounding him, right? Kicks the puck to his backhand and was able to lift it over Dobaj. I mean, that was a goal scorer's goal, Adam. I mean, we don't think of him so much as a goal scorer. That was a goal scorer's goal. I mean, that was really a nice play.
Yeah, he puts himself in position to make plays like that too.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
And then the other change was, I
Helenius.
wasn't quite sure. Yeah, well, I wasn't quite sure why he was putting Shen in, because he wasn't going to play him hardly at all. I got maybe for experience, but I wasn't so sure about that. I didn't know why they didn't try Kesselring or Metza, because he basically played 5D, which, I don't know, in a rugged series like this, do you want to wear your 5 guys down? It just didn't make I know teams do that, Adam, especially in the playoffs, but if you've got perfectly healthy guys that can take a shift and not kill you. I don't know why you would just play a guy for 7 minutes, and most of that was on the penalty kill. Whatever, but the move to Helenius that was key. I had speculated that on Twitter during Game 3. I said, why not make a change? Give the kid a chance. People were like, oh yeah, let's put a 19-year-old in for his first playoff game. Like that's going to really matter, right? Well, I saw the kid play in Rochester this year, pretty damn good, and he played good in a very short playoff series against Toronto. Why not give him a chance? Well, I think that worked out pretty well because he played really.
He extraordinarily. I mean, he could have had 2 goals, right?
Yeah.
On the rush.
I mean, I think Dobich.
Identical plays.
That was the save of the game. The one that
No
Dobich
question.
robbed him on, and then he hit the post on the same play.
And he's in front of the net and involved in that He's exactly where he should be in the midst of all that controversy. So I guess.
How about this? Ruff had him on the ice for a shift inside 3 minutes. I mean, he trusted that kid to be on the ice when they're trying to put the game away. So that showed me a lot too.
Yeah, he looks every bit the part of a 2024 first-round pick, doesn't he? I mean, early in his career, a huge positive signs in that regard. So, I mean, that all falls under, it's the players that are executing, but it's Ruff having all that experience he's had, how he's evolved as a head coach. It's a very interesting discussion. I've had it with him, both at the time just prior to the end of his first stint when they fired him in Buffalo. He talked about the need to evolve and acknowledged it, that players are different. It's kind of like society in a lot of ways. The hard-ass approach that he had taken for so long early in his coaching career, his time as a head coach, that needed to change. And he talked about the need to evolve. He certainly did that between his departure and the time he came back. But even beyond that, just the sense, having his finger on the pulse of his team and having a sense of how it's going to respond, when to get fired up and when to be calm, the right message to send, all of those things, I think we've seen it come to fruition on numerous occasions in this postseason. And really, in this game, when it absolutely mattered most, because as you had said, their season's essentially on the line right there. That's as close to a must-win situation in a Game 4, in a 2-1 situation as you can possibly get, I think. And Ruff's leadership, more than set the table and set things up for the Sabres to have the performance that they did in so many ways. So credit to him.
No, absolutely. He's a terrific coach. I mean, the guy's won the 4th most games in NHL history. So yeah, part of that's a lot of it's longevity, but he's coached a lot of good hockey for some very good teams. So I trust Lindy Ruff very highly with this team, and great job by the Sabres. That was a season-saving win. Now, of course, it ain't over. I mean, you go home and lose game 5, and then once again, you're right back in do or die Game 6. So go take care of business. Look, Adam, they have not been great at home, right? Their best games have come on the road in this postseason. So they need to go home and play a complete home game and get this thing back in their control, and at least give them some leeway when they go back to Montreal for Game 6. So get it done. What is it? Thursday night. Go get it done and play well. Yeah, should be great.
All right. So Thursday night, game number 5 back at KeyBank Center. FanDuel, presenting sponsor for this show and others here on the Believe network of podcasts. The Buffalo Sabres, early favorites in that game, and only slight favorites, as you might expect. The Sabres at -118. The Canadiens -102. A slight home favorite for Game 5, according to FanDuel. And I suppose, given last night, it surprises me a little bit. I mean, I felt like the prior 2 games, I don't know, like I'm not dialed into Vegas odds and how all that works as much as some, certainly. But, I mean, I think it's basically a pick'em situation. But I do think there's a lot of positives. Where that's coming from is there's a lot of positives that Buffalo was able to get back to its game, get the performance in goal, the way in which they sort of stopped the bleeding defensively says a lot about the direction this series could potentially head. But if you asked me to predict a winner, I don't know that I could. I couldn't sit here right now and tell you which of these teams I think is good. It's that close.
Yeah, I'm not a gambling man, Adam, but I sure as hell wouldn't be putting a bet on Game 5, because that is literally a pick'em game. So it should be really exciting at KeyBank Center.
You point Montreal, they've shown their ability to respond.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Haven't lost back-to-back games in the playoffs.
Yep, they've been good.
Something to consider. All right, so that takes care of it. 3-2 dramatic, controversy-filled Sabres win over the Montreal Canadiens in Game 4, evening the series 2 games apiece with, again, Game 5 Thursday night at KeyBank Center. So for Sal Majorana of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, I'm Adam Benini, WGRZ TV, Sports Talk Live Buffalo. Thanks for being with us here on Believe in Sabres, presented by FanDuel.